Super excited for today's guest. We have the Shaun Clark with us, co-founder of HighLevel. If you're in the agency world, marketing, sales world, you know that HighLevel is by far and away the best marketing, sales, automation, CRM. I could keep going on forever. Platform with a million features that make it super easy to run your business. But more importantly, Shaun has had an incredible career as a COO, CEO, founder, an entrepreneur. So super excited to chat with you, Shaun, and welcome
Yeah,
to the show.
thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah. Why don't we start with just giving some background into your overall entrepreneurial journey from starting a couple companies, and I
Sure,
believe you
yeah,
sold one business. So walk
I
us through
did.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't have entrepreneurship in my family, so I didn't really know what it was for a very long time. But I always just loved this idea that I could kind of do something on my own and create value on my own and really, make those decisions. And so that's kind of how I got into it. I would say my first big entrepreneurial gig was probably I hooked up with another guy and started an answering service, which you can Google what the heck that is. But it was a pretty cool journey because we grew it from zero to about 500 employees in the US, all answering inbound calls for about 5,000 small business owners. We wrote all our own software. We took a workforce that was originally in a building and we put them remote, which at the time there was no remote technology and certainly no one worked remote that we'd ever heard of, except some crazy people at a company called JetBlue, which is what inspired us to try it. And that was really awesome and grew that to about a $30 million business over about 12 years. And then from there, it was an awesome experience, but I wanted to really go out and do my own thing. And maybe something more in the software space. So I started Invoice Sherpa, which was an invoicing sort of reminders product, which helped small businesses collect past due invoices. And sure enough, there I got that idea from a friend and who was in the accounting space. And that was a big issue for a lot of small businesses. I didn't even know it getting into it. Grew that to about 1,000 small businesses off my kitchen table. That I was the only founder, CEO, and trash picker upper in that business, and that was bought by a Canadian payments company. And then after that, I went and hooked up with my co-founder Varun, and we started HighLevel.
Amazing. Tell me a little bit about the relationship between co-founders. Like, what do you do? What is he really good at?
Well, now we have three. We have two. I have two other co-founders. So there's three of us now. So originally it was Bruno and I. I met him at in the answering service days. He worked at our software development arm in India, and he was easily the best software engineer I'd ever met. And I'm a software engineer, so I don't know if that's saying anything, but I certainly thought I was good, but he was always better. So that was fun to hook up with him. And then in early days, we could build the products just fine, but we didn't realize that really working with and connecting with agencies was the ticket and how we could create a lot of value in the world. And that's where our third co-founder Robin came in, and he had an agency and at the time bought our product and then really opened our eyes to this opportunity. And then did way more than that. Took basically put his agency on hold, opened his Rolodex to us, spent 2 years of his own money running around the country promoting high level, all without a single dollar paid to him, nor promise of any equity whatsoever. And we finally got to a point one day where we realized that Bruno and I were being idiots, and we had just gotten so used to Robin being amazing that we hadn't given him any equity. So we ran out immediately and gave him equity and made him a co-founder. But today there's all three of us. I would say Robin is way more on the operations side. Varun is officially a CTO and does a great job at that. I'm the CEO. I don't know what that means though. We honestly work very well together. We work there really is no issue that is off limits to any of us. I think it works super well because we all see each other as having strengths and weaknesses. And I think we all have a great deal of respect for where we think we do a good job. And honestly, more importantly, where we start doing a terrible job. And it's really best to let that other person do it the way they're going to do it because they are way better at it than you are. And as a result, I think we work famously together. I mean, we have really great debates and awesome disagreements, but honestly, huge amount of respect for each other. And I think it makes it work super well.
Yeah. Before we dive a little bit deeper into high level from those previous businesses and kind of choosing the partnership route with your co-founders, What were some of the things that you took away from the previous businesses before going into high level?
Well, having been a co-founder um, at one point and really coming out of that situation pretty disgruntled with my situation, I sort of said, well, if the shoe's ever on the other foot, I really want to make sure that that other person understands not only what they get, what the promise is at the outset, but what does it look like if they want to leave? And so I sort of think about it as sort of preparing for the divorce before the marriage. And so early on, it was incredibly important to me where I just said, listen, like this is your deal so long as you do X. But by the way, if you ever wake up one day and say, I hate you and you suck and I want to leave, this is how you're going to get the value out that you've created because that's just in my opinion that's what's fair to you. And I think that works super well because at no point was there any ambiguity as to what would happen when that if that were to occur. And honestly, just looking back at my own situation, you know, I think we all kind of get into scenarios where, you know, you might feel justified and they may not feel like you're justified. And so when those situations happen, it's very hard to have a discussion in those moments. It's just best to know the exit plan. And so really for me, that was the key piece in choosing, you know, I chose somebody that I knew was amazing. Yeah, I chose somebody that I knew had all these great skills and honestly, a lot of skills that I didn't have. But I wanted to make sure it was exceedingly fair to them all the way through the process, even if it weren't to work out in the long term.
Okay, nice. And before kind of going into that arrangement, obviously having the exit plan is helpful for the partnership, but also
Critical.
for yourself. Like, it seems like you love what you're doing now, but what is the long-term vision for high level for yourself?
Well, I don't know what else I'd be doing if I wasn't doing high level. So, and you know, I think when you get to a platform of this size, there's a lot of options. There really isn't anything you can't do. And I've always wanted to help small businesses. I think we have the best opportunity to do that today than I've personally ever been a part of in my whole life. And so I'm thrilled to be doing what I'm doing. So I don't really have any I don't have any exit plans myself.
That's good. And that's a good transition into the platform itself. Like, you had a very unique and interesting kind of pricing model and seat model when you first came into the game. But what does that evolve to? Yeah, I still do. And where is that pricing model, or not even the pricing model, but just the way the platform's set up? Like, how is that structured now, and what does that allow you to do in the next year or two as you expand?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess for us, you know, we've been profitable since inception. And so as a result, we just sort of never sought to change that. And we wanted to create a model that was different than other software companies. We wanted, instead of trying to price per seat or per user or per record in the database or something that really honestly has no cost behind it. We wanted to find a way where we were motivated to create value for our customer because we're not just trying to create a software platform. We're also trying to create a business for people. We want people to be able to come in and utilize our platform to build a business on top of whether it's servicing clients, adding software, whatever it might be. But you know, I always say if you're paying us more than you're making, you're doing it wrong. You know, let us help you. You know, we can show you. You know, no matter who you are, we can show you a way that you can monetize on top of the platform. So yeah, we have all the features that everybody else has and more and this and that. But unlike everybody else, we don't think of ourselves as selling tools, right? We're selling not only tools, but also we're trying to help you take those tools and turn them into actual revenue, either in your existing business or a brand new business that you haven't started yet, you know, and all the things. So that for us is a big focus of how we go at our daily, you know, kind of our daily tasks. And honestly, the pricing is designed to really focus that effort and to really to parrot that value. Because if you sort of create a pricing model that has like this infinite charge behind it, it's very hard for the person on the other side to see how they're ever going to make a dime because no matter how big they get, it just seems like it gets more expensive, right? And so for us, it was really important to have a very flat pricing model and only charge where we felt like we absolutely had to, so that as people expanded, we could say, well, yeah, okay, you went from 97 to 297, but let me show you the advantages of the 297 so that you can make even more money, you know, but have it so that while there are, I think, two jumps, fundamentally it doesn't infinitely go, you know, into the stratosphere. so that people can truly get to a place where they're making a lot of money. And the great news is today with 4 million users, I can see many examples of that. So things are going well.
Yeah, so most of the platform is kind of the agency model that you've built out,
Yeah.
because I know personally quite a few people that are making a whole bunch of money as agency users, and
Yep. That's the
um,
idea. That's what I love
yeah,
to hear.
yeah. So one thing I wanted to ask about is, everyone thinks of it as the make money play for agencies, and although that's a piece of it, it's also just created this incredible product growth flywheel for you guys
Yeah.
that allows for acquisition without you actually doing the work yourselves, if that makes sense.
100%. Yes.
So
Yeah.
tell me.
And honestly, that goes back to the whole know what you do well, know what you don't do well. We're not great salespeople or marketers, so we don't try. We're great product and engineering people. And when you serve, and this is sort of cool for us, serving marketers in general has the sort of like these two beautiful parts to it. One is you get an opportunity to hear feedback from like the absolute elite of the profession when it comes to these types of tools and how they're really used, and honestly how they should be built and what's wrong with the existing ones. You get all of that information, which is so cool. But the other tangent that you get is they talk to each other. They have this wonderful network, and you folks are so collegiate, which is the way to be. But if you discover some amazing tool or some amazing new technique, your goal is to get out there and share it with somebody that you know as fast as you can, because you see them it's not like a winner take all scenario. So you're not like upset to share. And so there's this great two-way sharing street thing that goes out there, and that helps us quite a bit.
Yeah. And one thing I want to touch on, I'm sure a lot of people listening have the challenge as you grow the business, there are unlimited opportunities to go
Yes.
after, but it seems
Yes.
like you guys have stayed very disciplined. One thing I've noticed is, your platform, as I'm working with all these other companies and helping implement Salesforce, HubSpot instances, I'm like, wow, it would be 1,000 times easier if this massive business would just use GHL.
We'll
But
get there. Don't worry.
yeah. So what's kind of the roadmap for growth into the enterprise level for you guys?
Yeah. So I would say, it's all just been a matter of time. And given that we're now, 7 years in, there's a lot of maturity in the platform. So we have made it our goal this year. It's sort of like we've made it a focus after it started knocking on our door. So we have a lot more HubSpot customers coming to us because HubSpot continues to go up enterprise. And let's be very clear, enterprise is a very small segment of the market. It's 1% or something. Enterprise is like, go look at the definition. It's very big. So everybody else is generally, mid-market or below, and that's the vast majority of HubSpot customers. But HubSpot is under a lot of pressure from their investors to make ever more money, so they have to go to ever bigger customers. So we're coming right behind them, and our goal this year is to really start pulling in HubSpot customers. So we have a lot of the features now that I would say are absolutely necessary to do that. And then we'll be adding in, you'll see this a lot in Q3, we'll start adding a ton more importers just to make it easier to move people over from HubSpot. But yeah, we'll start taking most of their, I would say the majority of their business, only because the majority of their business is on the lower end.
Okay. And we don't have to get too into the weeds here, but obviously artificial intelligence and automation, you guys have been extremely good with
Oh
that, like the
man.
automations within
You have
GHL.
no
So
idea. There is a
yeah.
whole new thing coming out here in a minute. We're going to call it the Summer of AI, and you're going to see a ton of new AI tools come out. But yes, we have already, I mean, inbound voice AI, conversation AI, these are making, so our focus with AI, to be fair, I love AI. It's great. Everyone's excited about it. That's lovely. But again, let's go back to our ethos. Our ethos is to make sure that you're making money. So our goal isn't to put whiz bang tools in there that you may or may not use or may or may not provide value to you or your clients. So what we're laser focused on, and again, this goes back to being so thankful and grateful that we're working with the customers we do. We kind of wait for you guys to tell us what to do. In fact, that is exactly what we do. I mean, that's why we have the ideas list and everything else. But with AI specifically, we wait for you to say, hey, I'm selling this, right? Or I use this so much, I wish it was in the platform. Because for us, as cool as it would be to build every whiz bang AI thing we ever see, most of them are, they're cool, but they're not useful. They're not world changing, any of that. But things like inbound AI, voice AI, taking over receptionist function, conversation AI across a litany of channels, these things have huge, huge ROI gains all the way down to the SMB. So we've been putting a lot of focus around that. And then as we move forward, we're just seeing a ton of like Copilot usage, being able to talk to the system to help have you build things. We're moving more to an agentic model where you're going to be creating agents that can do things. And I think this is going to be just as cool as the way we started, because again, where do I think this all goes? I think it goes right back to the experts. You guys are going to know how to build agents. The plumber's not going to know how to build the agent, but the plumber will need an agent. And so you'll build that agent. And once that agent is rocking at what a plumber needs, now you can stamp it out for every single one of your clients very easily.
Absolutely. So back on the higher level of the business, like where are you guys at right now in terms of, company size, revenue, employees, and where are you
We
kind of
don't
targeting to
disclose
get to?
revenue, but you can probably figure it out. But we are 1,800 employees. We're the second largest sales and marketing CRM in the planet. We're actually bigger than HubSpot by customer now. So I mean, we're just kind of up and away. But again, this isn't because we're so smart. It's because our customers are so smart. We're focused a lot around internationalization. So these are things like, it's crazy what I once thought it was just language, but you also have to make sure you got payments in there. You have taxes you have to deal with. We're starting to see a lot of data sovereignty issues, even though like there's no law around it. People are just like, well, I really want the data to be in my so we're working on a lot of that. So you'll see a lot of that roll out, but it's really that's really around saying we have the right model here. Let's just push that model out to all kinds of other places. And we've already translated the app, I think, into 13 languages. We already have, I don't know what it is, a zillion currencies out there, but we'll keep adding even more, because for every payment method you think you have, there's yet another one you've never heard of that someone else, says, that they live and die by. So our mission now is just to make sure that we've got all of those things out there for both, for all the international markets that we serve.
Okay. And as you're kind of chasing that next level globalization of the platform and scaling up into the mid-market, what are some of the challenges that you're facing now at the level that you're at?
Well, it's always just about moving faster. So how do you keep the throughput up? How do you increase the throughput? And you get into weird, funny situations where the constraints that you used to have are no longer the constraints you have. So for example, it used to be the number of people, the engineers we could hire was capped, and it was a money problem. But now there isn't there's some limit there, of course, but there's a lot less of a limit. But now if you double the engineering team, actually you would slow down, because people walking in the door take time to run up. And a good engineer takes like 6 months to get going. So now instead of saying, well, how do we hire faster? Now it's how do we use AI tools in conjunction with the software engineering flow, so that an individual contributor who's already in place can be 40% more efficient, because all of the boilerplate code they're writing, now AI writes that for them, right? So all of a sudden you run into radically different challenges. Or on the international side, we have been doing a lot of events, and we just did our first international event in Dubai. We're about to do one in Sydney and then in London. And we're finding that these are incredibly successful as they've been in the US. So now it's like, wait, now we're going to have to scale up the events team. So we'll probably need a European events team, an Asian events team. We need to start running events internationally and globally, and not just in English. We're going to have to start doing it in local languages. So there's all of those challenges that, you just didn't realize you had until you do.
Yeah. As the CEO kind of leading that vision and that trajectory, what are some strategies that people listening can use as they grow the company to make sure, number one, that the teams are really efficient, and number two, like you have the leadership in place to help you execute on all this crazy stuff?
Yeah. So, I mean, gosh, it's tough because it really depends on your size. So like early on, I was not a big fan of KPIs. And honestly, at a smaller size, I still wouldn't be. Like if you have a smaller company, you have the capacity to be ultra connected to your people. But at 1,800 people, good luck with that. You need KPIs. KPIs rule your world, because what you want to do is trust your people. You want to hire amazing people. And in fact, if you are not hiring people in every area that you absolutely believe are way smarter than you and better than you at what they do, you're doing it wrong. But then when you hire an amazing person like that, let me tell you something, they do not want to be babysat. And they don't want to hear your terrible opinions about how they should be running their stuff, because they're better than you, right? But you need a way in which to agree to give them the freedom they need, but also hold them accountable. And that's where KPIs are really, really critical. And if you get them right, what's great is you get to let these people go do their own thing, and then you meet with them whatever once a month, and you're just making sure that they're on track. And honestly, before you ever talk to them, they already know whether they're on track because it's not like the number is shared, right? So they know how they're being judged. And in fact, one of the better things to do is ask these people what their KPI should be, and then they even pick their own. And as long as you agree with it and you think it's reasonable, then yeah, go for it, man. Like, go to town.
Yeah, so basically being a little bit aggressive with those like KPIs, goals, and targets that people are hitting, but giving them complete creative and flexible freedom to go hit those.
100%. And then, what's great about it is if you get really great people, I mean, great people like to do what they do. And so then you can celebrate the results, and then you can say, well, how do we double that? And what do you need from me to double, And the great thing is if the KPIs are right, they could say, well, I need you to, write a bigger check. And you say, where do I sign? Right. Like it's an awesome, awesome, magical thing. And again, I think at a size, culture is the most important thing at this size. You need to make sure that at all points, people are doing things in the way that you want them to do it. It's not specifically what they're doing, it's in the way that they're doing it. So it's really about making sure that you continue to walk the walk and that the culture comes from the top, but you're not spending a lot of time telling them what to do because you better have hired somebody who knows what they're doing, or grown somebody up through the organization who's better at what it is that they're doing than you sitting around telling them.
Yeah. Speaking of culture and action coming from the top, what do your days look like now that the company has grown to where it's at? Like, what are you focused on, and how are you kind of in that savage growth mode, or a little bit stepped back and kind of oversight over the team?
Well, no, I'm definitely in savage growth mode. But I would say I do now what I've always done, and I prioritize customer conversations first. Um,
Interesting.
I mean, I have meetings with team members and on a consistent basis, but I mean, I try to minimize those as much as I can to the extent that the customer comes first. So whatever time I have left in my schedule goes to the team, but it's really customer first. Facebook group, a Facebook Messenger, whatever the channels are that people want to talk to, either me or the company. Because my job, I think what I find is that when you have an amazing team who's running around like crazy trying to do a great job, but sometimes people just miss stuff. And they don't mean to miss it by any means. It's just that they're in pursuit of some goal, they don't realize there's some pain point that they don't quite realize is out there. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that if I see smoke, I know smoke can become fire. So my goal is to jump on the smoke, get it to the right person, get the problem solved, really, and it's really just highlighting the issue. And you highlight those issues, and the team members immediately like, oh man, I didn't even see it. I didn't realize that. Sorry about that. Boom, they jump on it, and they do an amazing job knocking this stuff out and getting it solved. But my mission there is to continue to communicate and create those connections.
Okay. And it seems like you've done a good job at kind of creating a good culture of people who do want to solve problems before they
Yeah,
come up.
yeah,
And
that's
if
the
you're
goal.
the
Right?
one doing it as the founder, I'm sure that
Yeah,
helps and sets the
a
stage
lot.
for everyone
Yeah, I
else.
mean, you can't say I refuse to talk to customers when the CEO does it all the time. So
Yep.
yeah, I mean, engineers talk to customers, product managers, my CFO, and at our annual event, my CFO runs helps run the store there, and she's selling t-shirts and stuff. So ultimately, that's the type of culture we want to have. We run all of our own events with our own people. I mean, that's just who we want to be.
Yeah, totally. So next steps, obviously you have your summer of AI releases. What's kind of next after that?
Well, right after the summer, we'll be heads down preparing for October, which is kind of our big annual conference.
Mhm.
And if you've ever been to one of those or seen one of those, we release like 250 new features. And so we'll be heads down getting ready for that, getting all of those features knocked out and ready behind the scenes so that when we go on stage, not because our job is really to put on an event that is the who's who of marketing. So I always like to say, even if you hate us, you'll want to show up because the people that are there, the experts and the kind of those folks, you can't wait to see them. And then our mission there is to do what we do best, which is develop and deliver on the product and on the engineering roadmap so that you have the tools you need to go out and actually serve your clients.
Yeah. And speaking of the events, the one thing or another thing that I've really respected about Go High Level is the it's kind of like a cult-like community where people get really excited about using the platform, and you don't
Hopefully
always
it's not
see
that
that.
bad.
Yeah,
Don't leave your families or anything for us,
yeah.
okay?
Yeah. And you don't really see that in a lot of other tools, and I think that would you attribute that just to the fact that you guys listen to your users probably more than a lot of these other platforms?
I mean, I hope so. Again, I see this as a journey that we're all on together, and I feel like we are here to support you. Our job is to be kind of your development arm, and do things the way that you always wish them to be done. And this is why, if you look at our development process, it's a meritocracy. So there's an ideas list, people vote on it, and much like any democracy, it's messy. Some ideas probably get votes they shouldn't, and some ideas don't get enough votes, and this and that. But the reality is, in the long term, it all works out, and the things that need to get done get done. And we're really proud of that, and we're really thankful that we have the system that we do. And but again, it keeps us focused every day on making sure that we're doing things the way you want us to do it, in the order you want us to do it. To me, that's really, really important.
Okay. And interesting. One thing that I haven't heard you talk about too much on other podcasts, we don't have to get into specifics, but as a CEO, co-founder, one of the biggest challenges is obviously managing cash flow throughout the different seasons of the company.
Yeah.
So for people who are listening, like, what are some tips and advice that you have for kind of managing cash flow and investing in the right things at the right time?
Well, I'm not very good at that. I've always sort of thought, hope for the best, plan for the worst. So from very early days, it was stockpile as much money as you can, hire only when needed. And I can look back now and say, well, gosh, I really wish I had hired this person or that person early. But that's hindsight 2020, right? So the reality is the only things that we hire out for are things that we know have the biggest impacts on customers. So for me, that's customer service number one, actually. I do not ever, I mean, I make it very clear, because the problem with, like, thing about customer service, it's all about, like, oh, what's your growth and this and that. And the reality is there's fungibility there, right? But I've made it very clear to the hiring folks, look, you will not be in trouble if you overhire, but you will be in trouble if you underhire. So I do not care if we are over. You won't get dinged for that, because the way I see it is customer service is so incredibly important that I'd rather just have to pause up or slow hiring later and absorb than be behind, because the second you're behind, everybody has a terrible experience, right? So that to me is number one, and the number two is engineering. I always know that we are gonna be in need of great engineers. So it's sort of like, if you find a great engineer, hire them, but don't wait, because those folks, they're not a dime a dozen. So you want to make sure you bring those folks in. But in general, we are all about stockpiling cash, because my favorite Warren Buffett saying is, you never know who's swimming naked till the tide goes out. And so sometimes the tide goes out, and you want to be and you don't want to be naked, I'll tell you that. So fundamentally, you want to be prepared, and that's kind of how we do it. And if that inhibits our growth to some extent, I'm fine with that. I would just rather be here for the long term. And if you look at a lot of the larger competitors out in the world, very few of them actually make any money. Even ones that are big names and publicly traded and everything else, a lot of them have to raise money to keep the lights on, and that's not the game we play.
And I'm sure your stress level basically goes way down when the more cash that you stockpile and the longer runway you have
You
and
would
the more you
think.
can
You would think.
experience.
I'm an extraordinarily stressed, fearful person by nature. So no, that does not apply to me. Although I have met people
Gotcha.
who would say yes to that question, but that's not.
Understood. Last couple questions I have for you before we wrap up. For the growth trajectory that you're having with high level, do you see anything else in the future, in a different business or different problems that have popped up, or have you gotten big enough in this company where you feel like this platform is just what you want to work on for the
I was
rest
going to say
of
there's
the
not much
days?
well, first of all, I don't think I'm smart enough to be where I am. So I don't think I'm smart enough to be anywhere else. But I also think that there are a lot of other problems we can solve. I mean, what's fun about us is, I would say, we're like Costco. Our goal is, we have certain products, and you're coming into the store to buy them, but I'm just there to ask you, like, hey, what else do you want? Hey, what else do you want? And you'll say, well, I do go on vacation sometimes, and I do actually, I get tires for my car, and maybe I want to drink a bottle of wine now and again. And my mission is great. Let me go put tires and wine and vacations in the store because I know that that's something that you need. And so that's really our mission. So we'll probably go into more product management stuff. We're adding a bunch of inventory stuff for the POS stuff. So maybe we'll go more into ERP as well as time goes on. So there's a lot of directions I think we will naturally end up going. But the even in our current feature set, the footprint that we could easily get to is radically larger than we have today. And more importantly, I think the model, I always like to say models matter. The model we've developed, I can very confidently say helps our SaaSpreneurs, our customers, our direct people who are using our system build really amazing businesses. And the people they help also are able to grow and create amazing businesses. So I just see a lot of people winning. And we're doing fine. You're doing fine. Your customers are doing fine. Like win, 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 right? So let's just do more of that. I have no problem continuing to do more of a good thing. I have no designs or needs to go out and prove I'm smarter than I am. I'm fine just the way I am.
Love it. Yeah, last thing, where can people learn more about how to not just sign up for HighLevel, but actually implement it into their
Oh,
business
sure.
and,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
do it the
Well,
right
there's a
way?
lot of good options these days. So let's walk this through. So first up on your list should really be the YouTube channel. So you can get a really good breadth, scope, and width of who we are, not just on the feature side, but also the amazing people we get to work with and all kinds of other cool stuff. Obviously when you sign up, we have this amazing directory now of certified partners. So if you go to directory.gohighlevel.com, you'll find people who you can actually work with to set up. Now, do keep in mind, we also offer Zoom-based support and setup all the way through for free. So that's there. But if you ever get to a place where you're like, okay, I love this, but I don't really want to do it day to day or hire someone to do it day to day, I'm going to go to the directory and find someone who can do it day to day. That's kind of how that works. But we are always there to hold your hand. We are always there to jump on a Zoom call with you. That's the way we prefer to do it. In fact, I was delighted yesterday or the day before. I saw we got a review online. It was 5 stars, so I was happy about that. But she said, "Man, it's so weird at first because you get in the Zoom room and I don't know what's going on. But then all of a sudden they put me into a room with somebody and they actually helped me and I could share my screen. And that was the most thrilling thing because that is exactly why we do the way we do it because I think it has such a marvelous impact on people's outcomes."
Okay, nice. And then once you're in and once you're implemented with your business, what is one sleeper feature or thing in the platform that everybody needs to try out?
Well, I mean, it's the same thing we got started with, so which is speed to lead. So like the simple question is, are you responding to your leads and getting them, most importantly, to take an action? And most of the time that's like booking an appointment in 5 minutes or less, 24/7, 365. So 2 a.m. on a Christmas morning, if I contact your business, do I get a text message or some sort of messaging communication where I'm able to go back and forth and actually get answers? And are you able to get me to affect an outcome that you want me to do? And if the answer is no, we can automate every single business on the planet to that extent. And that's what you need to focus on when you first get in, because if you do that, that's where all the money gets made. I mean, you could spend more ads, drive more traffic, blah, 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 and you can optimize all that, and you should, but most people have an inbound lead flow and that they're just not able to get that lead flow converted over. And that's that speed to lead issue that I think everybody needs to make sure they're really good at before you go out and pour a bunch of more money into advertising.
There you have it, everyone. Speed to lead and get on HighLevel. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah,
I really appreciate
100%.
appreciate it. Super insightful conversation and a lot of takeaways for everyone.
Sounds good, man. Have a great day. Thanks,
Yeah.
everybody.